Welcome, everybody. We thank you very much for joining us today for this parent workshop on dyslexia. Let's first go over our learning objectives. We are going to begin with information that helps you gain a general awareness around dyslexia. We will then present strategies you can use at home to help your child with their academics. And lastly, we will conclude with information regarding how LAUSD is supporting the dyslexic needs of our students. Let us begin with our first objective, gaining a general awareness of dyslexia. Many times when our children struggle academically, we forget all of the many things they are great at. While addressing dyslexia is very important, that we acknowledge children's strengths and lean on these during their academic journey. So to start, we invite you to think about your child's strengths. What is your child good at? Maybe they are patient or funny. Perhaps they are good at sports or art. Try to focus on their top 3 strengths. Take a few moments to think and make note of those top 3 strengths. Now, I want you to think about one challenge your child is facing with schoolwork. Maybe they have difficulty with staying organized, or maybe it's reading comprehension that presents a challenge for them. Take a few seconds to think and note that challenge. We're going to ask you to reference these strengths and challenges later in the presentation. Before we go over the actual definition of dyslexia, we know that when it comes to dyslexia, there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes we may hear information that is true, and other times we may hear information that is inaccurate. We are going to take a moment and look at some of this information now. I'm going to read a statement, and you are going to decide if you think the information given is true or false. There's no need to write down any of your answers. This activity is just to reflect upon what you already know. Okay, let's start with the first one. People with dyslexia cannot read. Is this true or false? The answer is false. Students with dyslexia can learn to read and succeed in school. This is why it is very important to make sure we are providing the right types of strategies for our children. Individuals with dyslexia can become terrific readers with the appropriate intervention. Let's try the next one. Parents can increase their child's sense of self-worth by learning about their child's strengths and weaknesses related to reading. Is this true or false? The answer is true. Students with strong parental relationships have shown to have an increase in reading motivation. When children see that their parents believe in them, they start to believe in themselves. How about children will outgrow dyslexia? Is this true or false? The answer is false. Dyslexia is a lifelong challenge, and this is why early intervention matters. And although dyslexia does not go away, those with dyslexia can learn strategies that help them be successful in everyday life. Individuals with high intellectual ability can have dyslexia. True or false? This one is true. Many highly intelligent people have dyslexia. Dyslexia does not have anything to do with how smart someone is or his or her IQ. Young children who reverse letters have dyslexia. Is this one true or false? This one is actually false. This is a common misconception. It is important to know that most children master letter-sound correspondence with practice. So it's common for a student who is still mastering letters to mix up B, D, P, and Q. Just because a child reverses letters, that does not mean he or she has dyslexia. Additionally, we also know that not all individuals with dyslexia reverse letters. And let's look at the last one. Dyslexia is a rare disorder. This answer is false. About 1 in 5 people have some sort of form of dyslexia, so it is more common than most may think. Some estimate that 15 to 20% of the population has mild to severe dyslexia. All right, great job. Let's move on to what dyslexia actually is. So what is dyslexia? Dyslexia is a brain-based learning disorder. It is neurobiological and causes difficulty in skills needed for learning to read, spell, and write. Here are a few of the characteristics of dyslexia in regards to academics. Children affected with dyslexia may show poor decoding and spelling abilities. For example, your child might have a great imagination when writing a story, but many of the words written on the page may be misspelled and the story may be hard to read. Another characteristic is that your child may have difficulties with accurate or fluent word recognition. You may practice words that appear in a story with your child, but when it comes time to read that story, they may not be able to recall how to read all of those words. Retaining information can be a challenge. A child with dyslexia might study all week for a test and then still get a poor score. And finally, another characteristic of dyslexia may be that a child's spoken and written language can be affected. They may have difficulty recalling the correct word when trying to tell a story. Now let's go on to our second learning objective.
Our second learning objective. In this section, we are going to explore strategies you can use at home with your child to support them with their academics. Now that we have an understanding of what dyslexia is and the ways in which it may manifest itself, let's take a closer look at the areas affected by dyslexia. These areas are phonological awareness, fluency, comprehension, and spelling. In this section, we will present a brief overview of each of these areas. Then we will share strategies you can use to help your child in each of those 4 areas. One area many individuals with dyslexia may have difficulty with is phonological awareness, which is the understanding that spoken words are made up of individual sounds. It involves being able to identify and manipulate the sounds in language. For example, this includes being able to identify words that rhyme or counting the numbers of syllables in a word. There are many fun activities you can do to help strengthen phonological awareness. One great way for students to practice sounds in language is with the use of rhymes. Here are 2 examples. The first, Jack Be Nimble, is a common nursery rhyme that you may be very familiar with. And it's also an example taken from Benchmark Advanced. This is the language arts program that many LAUSD schools use. For this strategy, what you would do is you would begin by reading a poem or a story with your child, and then you would have them listen for the rhymes. For example, if I were reading this to a young child, I would say something like, "We are going to read a fun and silly poem. Listen for words that rhyme or words that have the same ending sound. Let's see how many you can find. Ready? Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump over the candlestick." I would then ask, which words did you find that rhyme? As you can see in this example, we would be looking for them to be able to identify the word quick and candlestick as those rhyming words. I would then read the next section of the poem. Jack jumped high, Jack jumped low, Jack jumped over and burned his toe. Which 2 words rhyme? Yeah, you got that right. Low and toe. Again, this was just an example that we would use with a very young child, right? It's very silly and fun. However, rhyming is not just for those students in early elementary. Rhyming is a skill that can be addressed even in secondary with our older students. Phonological awareness can be strengthened at any age, and it is never too late to work on this skill. The second example we see here is a poem that might be read again to a child in a secondary setting, for example, high school. This poem in particular is by a famous poet, Robert Frost. The variation of this strategy for an older child would be to have them highlight the rhymes in the same color to show their rhyming relationship. As we see in this example, some of the words show their rhyming example by being highlighted with the same color. So we see gold and hold and so on and so forth. To take it a step further, you could have your child come up with words on their own as well. So you would ask them, what else would rhyme with gold? Mold, maybe, sold, told. They may even come up with some nonsense words, which is totally fine to do when you are working with rhymes. Remember, it's all about listening for those sounds. And another great idea for older students would be to have them listen to words in words that rhyme in age-appropriate songs. So we know that young children also like to listen to songs, and so that would be a very fun way to bring in those rhymes. All right, so let's move on to the next strategy, segmenting sounds. To help with phonological awareness, you could do the strategy of segmenting or dividing up the sounds in a word. For this, you would use pennies like shown here, but you could also use beans, buttons, blocks, or maybe even some Legos. The goal of the activity is to have your child pay attention to the sounds they hear in a word. Please note that when you are first using this strategy, like with anything new that a child is learning, you may have to model this for them a few times before they can do this on their own. So essentially what you would do is ask them to listen to the word, then manipulate the pennies according to the sound they hear. Here's an example. Listen to the word cat. How many sounds do you hear? A, t. 3 sounds. For each sound you hear, you will drop down a penny as you say the sound. Let's practice. K, a, t. Good job. Here's one more example. Let's sound out the word fish by bringing down a penny for each sound we hear. Remember, we move pennies for sounds, not for letters. I, sh. Listen to the blend sh. Even though it has 2 letters together, they make only 1 sound. Great job identifying those sounds. I didn't trick you, even though there were 2 letters in the last sound, you only brought down 1 penny because together they make 1 sound. Good job. Fluency is another area children with dyslexia may struggle with. Fluency has 3 main parts. One part is automaticity. This means reading by sight and not sounding out words. A fluent reader is able to recognize a word as soon as they see it. Accuracy is another component of fluency, which is the ability to read words correctly. And the third part of fluency is prosody. This is a feature of expressive reading, and it includes timing, phrasing, emphasis, and intonation. Fluency is so important because it provides that bridge between word recognition and comprehension. When a fluent reader does not have to spend so much energy decoding, they are able to focus on understanding the meaning of the text they are reading. Now we are going to watch an LAUSD student read some text. But first, he's going to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Adam. I'm a fifth grader at 185th Street Elementary School. I have dyslexia and I'm learning how to read.
Now, we are going to witness the improvement of Adan's reading skills. We will begin by watching how Adan used to read before receiving any reading interventions. In the video you are about to see, the words he misses are highlighted with red circles. Let's watch.
Oh wow, be scared, dear. The voice said, just then a tree branch swooped down and blocked Fern's return.
So as you were able to see, Adan struggled to read the text fluently. This was evident not only with the errors he made, but also with the pace and the intonation in which he read. Now let's watch Adan read one more time. This video now demonstrates how Adan read after receiving reading intervention and support, not only from his teacher at school, but also from his family at home.
Sacrifice and medical achievements have been truthfully amazing. Man has learned an incredible amount about the body and how it can help be repaired. Transplants have now included organs such as lungs and parts of limbs.
This video is a testimony that although an individual may have dyslexia, with the appropriate reading interventions, they can make great improvements in their reading skills. So what can we do at home as a parent or caregiver to support a child in improving their fluency? One strategy that can help improve fluency is called scooping. This works well in helping the reader sound natural instead of sounding robotic. To help demonstrate what scooping is, we are going to use the sentences that we see here from a story called King Sam. Let's practice. The king sings to the kids. Here's the same sentence, but let's look at a different way to scoop the sentence. The king sings to the kids. As you can see, scooping helps add prosody, which ultimately helps with comprehension. One more strategy you can implement to help your child with fluency is highlighting. Here's an example of a reading passage that may look very familiar to you. Chances are your child may have worked on a homework assignment similar to what we see on the screen. For a child that struggles with reading, this passage may look very intimidating. Some children may even give up before they even try to read the passage, or they might refuse to do their homework. Maybe they'll cry out or act out because it's very intimidating. So one way you can help is by making this passage less daunting, and to help your child with fluency by using the technique of highlighting. Have your child highlight any words they find difficult. Next, take these highlighted words and write the words on a separate piece of paper. Just as demonstrated here, the words quietly, ripping, tearing, unblinking, and grinding are some of the words that were pulled from the passage. Then, take these highlighted words and write the words on a separate piece of paper. Have the child read the words to you and ask them to make a prediction. What words do you think, what do you think is going to happen in the story based on these words? Again, we will ask them to make that prediction based on those words that were pulled from the text. Doing this will help generate interest in reading the passage. Finally, have them read the passage to see if their prediction was correct. You may even extend this activity by briefly discussing the word parts, like word endings, words ending with ing, or words that have double consonants, or words that end with ly, etc., etc. Now, JC will guide us through the next two areas that are affected by dyslexia and strategies to support with these areas.
So now let's discuss reading comprehension. Comprehension is the ability to understand written material involving thinking and reasoning. It is the ultimate goal of reading, and one of the reasons why fluency is so important. If students are spending too much time trying to sound out and decode a word, it is almost impossible to focus on the understanding of a text. Comprehension includes retelling, predicting, summarizing, inferencing, sequencing, and making connections. One strategy that many teachers use to support comprehension is the use of graphic organizers. Graphic organizers are visual thinking tools that help make pictures of your thoughts. They also can demonstrate relationships between facts, concepts, or ideas, and they help guide someone's thinking as they design the map. Most teachers use graphic organizers in the classroom with their students. Consider asking your child's teacher for copies of any graphic organizers that they are currently using. Because your child is already familiar with how to use them, it can help support their reading and homework at home. Shown here is a sequence graphic organizer. When reading a story, this type of graphic organizer is great for helping students retell a story from beginning to end. Here on the left, you can see the sequence organizer used with the story of the very hungry caterpillar. Sequence graphic organizers can also help students recall a chain of events. On the right, here you can see a 7th grade student how they might use this graphic organizer when learning about climate change. A teacher could use a graphic organizer to help students understand the sequence of events leading up to environmental problems as shown here. There are so many wonderful organizers that support children with comprehension. Graphic organizers is a strategy that can be used with children of all ages and can be used for different topics and subjects. They can include pictures like the one on the left for younger children and phrases like the one on the right for older children. Another way to support your child's comprehension at home is to teach them to read text in parts and then sketch what they have read. This is great for students who love drawing. This strategy helps to understand and retain information. It's called chunking and sketching. When using this strategy, you would ask your child to read text and then have them draw a quick sketch of what they read. In this example, one paragraph was read and then a picture was sketched. It was then repeated with the second paragraph. When done with each sketch, have your child go back and tell you what the text was about by using the sketches. This is a form of note-taking that allows students to use not just words, but pictures as well. All right, let's look at spelling. Spelling involves the forming, sorting, and recalling of words. This can also be affected by dyslexia. Spelling is not just spelling a word. In order to spell a word, a student must know how to form the letters, relate sounds to letters, be able to put these sounds in order, and recall what they know about word parts. It's a lot more complex than just spelling a word. Let's begin by looking at spelling supports for younger children. When supporting younger children, we want to be engaging as possible. If it's engaging or fun, we are more likely to have a child that is more than willing to practice their words. With that said, practicing spelling does not have to be writing the words 5 times each. In fact, studies have shown that this method doesn't help students retain how to spell a word. Instead, try having your child use letter stamps to spell words. Or if your child likes building, you can write words and letters on individual building blocks and then show them how they can use the blocks to build words. Another fun activity is read it, build it, and write it. This activity allows students to practice spelling words 3 different ways, as pictured here in the middle image. On the top right corner, we have an example of another hands-on activity. Writing letters on beans or pieces of cut up paper and manipulating the beans to spell each word is also a fun way to practice spelling. Lastly, an around the room spelling hut is favorite with kids. For this, you would post letters that make up the spelling words around the house. Your child would then hunt for the letters with the goal to build each of their spelling words. So, in summary, the key to practice spelling is making it fun for your child. Now, as far as supporting older children with spelling, here are some activities to support spelling at home. Did you know that breaking up words into syllables actually helps children remember how to spell longer words? For example, the word Wisconsin could be broken down into wis, con, and sin, spelling just one syllable at a time. Additionally, changing colors for each syllable helps with retention. Words within words. For this activity, children can look for smaller words in large words. So shown here is the word separate. You can find a rat in separate. So that is one way to remember that it is spelled R-A-T-E. You could also find bust in the word business, as in you bust in people for your business. My favorite, though, is making up funny sayings using the letters of a word to help with remembering how to spell that word. These are called mnemonic devices. Let your child get creative and have fun making up funny or weird ways to recall how to spell a difficult word. Even if it doesn't make any sense to you, if it makes sense to them and helps them remember how to spell the word, then it works. For example, here is one way to remember how to spell the word because. Big elephants can always understand small elephants. And the letter of each one of those words spells the word because. Using a multisensory approach or involving more than one sense at a time helps support students with memory and the ability to learn. Here are a few examples you can use. You can try tracing words on sandpaper, using Play-Doh to form letters and words, skywriting, simply using one's hand to trace letters and words in the air. Shaving cream and sand can also be used to convert spelling into a multisensory activity. If we want to ensure that children are engaged and having fun with reading, then be sure to provide a variety of reading materials. Allow them to read magazines, joke books, comic books, and even the newspaper. Finding a book series they enjoy also can get a child motivated to read. Be sure to have them try different genres and levels of reading until they find something that they are interested in. Just encourage them to read everything. It can even be the backs of cereal boxes, menus, even Pokemon cards. We just want them to be practicing reading. Make reading fun. Engaging in readers' theater is a great way to make reading a family affair. Assign characters, use silly props, act out the story. Using Mad Libs is a fun way to encourage reading and wordplay. You can buy Mad Libs at any Target or 99-cent store, or you could just do a quick search in your internet browser of Mad Libs and a bunch of free different sites will come up. You can download different games and apps on your phone or tablet that help with reading. Make reading into a game. A game like Bananagrams or a game like Scrabble encourage spelling. If they like sports, incorporate sports. Shooting hoops to spell out a word is just one example. Allow your child to read with a flashlight in the dark is another way to make reading fun. Let's review some ways you can help your child build positive study habits at home. Study habits need to be explicitly taught because they do not come natural to children. So think about how your child completes work best. One way you can help is by providing a quiet place for your child to complete work at home. You might also give them extra time to complete their homework. Build in brain breaks and strategies for handling the volume of work that needs to be done. For example, if there are 20 problems in math, help your child break down that task into manageable chunks. You might have them do 5 problems and then take a quick break and then come back and do 5 more problems. Take another quick break and so on until they complete their work. This type of support will help your child not to feel overwhelmed. Take a moment to look at this slide for other supports that you could put into place to help build positive study habits. Build a reading support kit for home that will ensure that you have materials readily available for your child to use. For example, in a designated area, such as the quiet area that you're going to have your child do homework in, keep a bin that houses things such as a whiteboard, dry erase markers, Play-Doh, chalk, highlighters, and you might even want to put some of those graphic organizers that you're going to ask your child's teacher to share with you. Positive self-talk plays a critical role in the development of growth mindset. We as parents can model this type of positive language for our children when we talk to ourselves. In doing so, we can play a crucial role in strengthening our students' mindset. Studies show students with a growth mindset are more motivated and engaged. They even work when work is challenging. They are more likely to review or revise their work. They score better on math and verbal standardized tests. They fail fewer classes and have higher GPAs. They are also more likely to persist through high school and college. We as parents want to provide specific positive modeling and feedback that reflects what is driving the student's performance. At the beginning of this presentation, you took a moment and noted your child's strengths and a challenge related to academics. With those in mind, ask yourself, what is something that you saw here that you will start doing at home to help support your child's reading success? As you think about an activity you may want to commit to, try to utilize your child's strengths that also addresses their needs. So for example, your child might have difficulty with spelling, but loves hopscotch. An activity that you might want to try is writing out letters in chalk and on the sidewalk and having your child jump to each letter as they practice spelling words. This incorporates both strengths and needs. In the blue box shown here are just a few of the activities we discussed during this professional development.
Now let's review some of the ways LAUSD is supporting the dyslexic needs of our students. Let's begin by looking at what structured literacy is. Structured literacy is an approach to reading instruction that is grounded in the science of reading. The content of structured literacy is integrated into reading and written expression through integrated language, reading and writing instruction by supporting automaticity, fluency, and reading comprehension. And most importantly, structured literacy is child-centered, as shown here in this graphic. What just appeared in the pink circle are the elements addressed through structured literacy, which include phonemes and graphemes, morphemes, syllable and stress patterns, orthographic conventions, vocabulary and background knowledge, sentence structure and grammar, text structure, and critical thinking. Now, the information in the blue circle are the essential principles of instruction. These guide how content is taught. What's important to note about these principles is that we understand that they are beneficial for all students. However, we also understand that these are necessary for students who are experiencing challenges with reading and written expression. With structured literacy, instructional decisions for tasks, which is what the students are asked to do, and with the text they interact with are planned and are purposeful. Structured literacy also emphasizes highly explicit and systematic teaching of all important components of literacy. What this means is that teachers are clearly explaining and modeling key skills for their students using direct instruction that is highly interactive and multimodal, and instruction that follows a well-organized sequence. And as skills are being taught, teachers are providing students with prompt, targeted feedback, and practice that is scaffolded and cumulative. Teachers also monitor student progress and collect data that they then use to guide their instruction. In LAUSD, many of our educators are using approaches and programs in their classrooms that are based on structured literacy. Some of these approaches and programs include Orton-Gillingham and programs from Hegarty, the 95% group, and Wilson. These structured literacy approaches and programs explicitly and effectively address foundational literacy skills, which is a core need of children with dyslexia. Check with your child's teacher for more information on what programs or approaches they are working with. If you would like to access more information about dyslexia and the ways to support your child, please visit the LAUSD Dyslexia Awareness webpage. Additionally, for more information and resources, visit the LAUSD Special Education website. Here you will find flyers like the ones you see here, advertising upcoming workshops. We hope that today's workshop gave you an insight on the basics of dyslexia and provided you with practical and engaging tools to support your child at home with their academics. We thank you all for joining us and for sharing time with us today. We look forward to your participation in our upcoming workshops as well. Thank you.